Well, hello everyone, and welcome. It's 1 month into January, I guess 1 month into 2023, and I promised that at the beginning of the year I was going to do a digest for all the media that I consumed every month. So, it's a bit into February now, I guess, but I've been a bit busy, but I'm going to go over all of the um, TV shows, games, movies, whatever that I saw in January, and I'm going to rate each one and then just talk about them, I guess. And ideally, I should be going over a bunch of YouTube videos that I also watched and analysis videos and stuff, but I didn't watch any, so I'm not going to include them this month. So, the first thing I watched was My Hero Academia World Heroes' Missions, which was an hour and 45 minutes. It's a movie, and I watched it on the 5th of January, and this came out a while ago. I'm a big My Hero Academia fan, at least of the anime. I guess I do read the manga, but I wouldn't consider myself like a big manga fan or anything. Um, and this movie was great, 4 out of 5 stars. So I don't know what to say. It's just a very simple, like My Hero Academia movie story where you've got all your characters in this like new location, and they're all trying to fight against this new big bad that's introduced just for this movie, and then gets beaten at the end. Um, but I thought it was a fun time. Good production value as always for My Hero. Let me look at my notes. So I said that Yutaka Nakamura is the goat, and that's because he's like a really he's probably I mean, I don't know that many animators, but he's undoubtedly my favorite one. Where in this movie he did most of the final fight with what's his name? Did I even write down the name? This guy, the guy who can redirect trajectories of attacks or whatever. Um, but yeah, he did that final fight, which was just so cool to see, and I love every time I see him. Um, and it even feels like, because I knew that he'd done like a big fight in this, and it kind of felt like I was just waiting for it the whole movie, but it really did pay off at the end. But I guess that's my first note. There was a bunch of cool fights in this movie. Well, I don't know what else, what more could you probably want from My Hero Academia? Um, I really liked we met this new character in this movie that had a pet basically, and the pet, like his quirk was that that little pet, the little bird, would show his true emotions even if it's hiding them. I thought that was cool. Like, it's a cool little quirk. Had some cute moments where he's like sad about his like dad dying or whatever. Good stuff. But I think the big like selling point for this movie was this villain, this blue guy right here. It was like Lectern or something, right? Or is that from something else? I think that's who he was. Um, but he was cool everything. He had cool power, like we would reflect everything. He had cool motivations where he felt like he could never connect with anyone, you know? So he wanted to get rid of these quirks that had like wronged him. So um, I thought that was really cool. And also in this final fight, what was really cool was the fact that he reaches his limit and he finds out that like people can actually hit him. Like Deku does actually hit him at some point, and it's like it's a really sad realization where he's like he's done all of this for nothing because he never, if he had, instead of focusing his effort into hating the world and all that, if he had instead tried to test the limits of his quirk and find out if there was a way to overcome it through like sheer will, then he could have lived a better life. But no, he didn't. He went down the wrong path, and it's sad and really cool. And he has like a very earnest moment of like he almost reconsiders his entire whole life trajectory, which is really cool. And that's I saw the note trajectory here, which is probably why before I said that he had a trajectory quirk, but I think his quirk was just reflecting like all the attacks that attack him. But that was sweet. What else do I have to say? I don't know. I guess I was excited to watch this movie. It came out a while ago, and as you can see, it's the first thing I consumed in this media consumption list because it is so easy to watch. I love My Hero Academia. I watched the dub, of course. I only watched the My Hero dub, and the dub was great as always. Um, but I don't know. There's not too much to talk about this. A great 4 out of 5 movie. Then I watched Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, which is an anthology series of Clone Wars where it follows 2 parallel stories. So you've got the story of Ahsoka, and you've got the story of Count Dooku. And I guess the parallel here is that they're both Jedi's who stepped away from the Jedi Fallen Order. The Jedi Order. And there's very few of those people who do that. So it's interesting to see like the parallel journeys of these 2 people. And this got 5 stars. This was amazing. This is one of the best things I've seen this year. Some of the best Star Wars content I've ever seen. The first episode was a bit weak. It was an Ahsoka like as a baby episode, which I thought was like I don't know how to say it. It's not interesting because it was very obvious in a way where I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, yeah, now we see this and next we're going to see this. And yeah, eventually they'll be like, she's a Jedi. And that is exactly what happened. But either way, it was still great. It was just very predictable, I guess, which is kind of boring, but that was fine. Let me get my notes up. So, episode 1, I said, yeah, it was a cool short story about finding out that Ahsoka is a Jedi, but it was pretty straightforward. Episode 2 I wrote was sick. So this was when Qui-Gon and Dooku visit the village who had kidnapped a senator's son because that senator had essentially turned their planet into this like polluted planet, which he'd like neglected it this whole time. And I thought this was really great, where you get Qui-Gon. Firstly, just seeing Qui-Gon like younger was really cool. But actually, this is where the screenshot for this episode comes from. For this part of the video comes from. But yeah, so it was cool seeing Dooku and Qui-Gon like empathize with these people and understand them, and Dooku in the end realizing that this senator guy is not going to change, and he basically in his anger or like frustration he decides that he's going to kill him. But Qui-Gon steps in, and he has this moment where Qui-Gon doesn't say anything. He just like puts his hand on his shoulder and is like, "Master, that's enough," or something. And then Dooku has this like moment of realization where he like regrets what he's done, and he has this self-reflective moment where he's like, man, I guess my anger is getting to me. And it's really interesting to see a Dooku who hasn't gone down the wrong path yet, but you can see it in him. Like he has this potential to go down the wrong way. But that was really cool. And I guess it also says a lot about Qui-Gon, how he really understands his like master and probably friend or father figure, I guess. But it's neat. Qui-Gon is really cool, and it's good to see more of him. Yeah, I guess, and what I wrote specifically is that it's interesting that he doesn't try to stop his master, because what Qui-Gon does is first he runs to get the kid, like the actual kid of the senator, and brings him out, because he knows that his master is going to do something terrible, and he's like, I know how to stop him if I just bring out this kid. And he doesn't think bad of Dooku for doing it or anything. It's just a great dynamic all around, so I love it so much. Then we get episode 3, which was really cool. It was a Dooku and Mace episode when they were younger, which was, I was not expecting to see those two together, but that was neat. And they basically investigate this place where a Jedi was killed. And what did I write? So we see Dooku beginning to doubt the role of the Jedi in enacting the will of the Senate. Yeah, because he's again seeing another corrupt politician, and who is choosing. Actually, I honestly don't even remember what that senator chose. Man, I'm trying to remember. So it's been like it has been a month, more than a month than when I saw this. We see Dooku beginning to doubt the role of the Jedi in enacting the will of the Senate. I don't know. It was great. That's all I'll say. At the end, we also see that this is when this job here is what got Mace to be put on the council, which shows a bit of his ego, where he says that like when he's talking to Dooku and he's like, yeah, don't worry, they'll recognize you eventually. And it just shows a bit of Mace's ego there. Then we get episode 4, which was Dooku dealing with Qui-Gon's death and becoming the like going and meeting Sidious on the Coruscant planet, which is a bit ridiculous. The fact that the like I feel like Yaddle, because essentially this is the Yaddle episode where Yaddle goes and follows Dooku and very easily follows him and could have undermined the entire effort of Palpatine just from that. But anyway, it was just a small convenience thing. But yeah, Yaddle goes and confronts Dooku and just tells him, you know, you haven't gone too far, we can still forgive you, blah, blah, blah. And what's interesting is that Yaddle said that she has already stepped down from the council because she believes they've gone the wrong way about dealing with the Sith Lord, which is interesting because it really, like, that is, like, Dooku has also stepped down at this point, or at least wants to step down. So it's interesting that he ends up having to kill the one person who agrees with him. So it was a great thing. And Yaddle has that moment where she's like lifting up the door and it's like, oh, the light's coming through. It's cool, symbolism. Great episode. Then there's episode 5, which was, I wrote that it was simple and sweet. So I would assume short and sweet. Oh, it's the episode where Anakin is training Ahsoka, and by having her fight all the clones, and the clones are like in a circle around her, and they're trying to stun her, um, and it's like you progressively see her getting better and better as they do it over the years until finally you see that like I guess it's an explanation for how she survived so well in Order 66 when they're all shooting at her because she's practiced so much. And then the episode ends where you get the doors opening in the final episode of the Clone Wars, and you see all the clones out there ready to eventually kill them when it's revealed that Rex is not is on their side. So that was great. What else did I write? Oh yeah, we also get new character models for Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan in particular looked really cool. A lot of cool details there in his new model. Then we got the final episode, episode 6, which was Ahsoka at Padme's funeral, and then refusing Bail Organa's plea to help the rebellion. And then she has this amazing Inquisitor fight, which she ends in like 2 seconds. And the guy like deflates, and it's like really cool. But that's one of the coolest it probably is the coolest Inquisitor design so far in Star Wars. And it's great fight, short fight. She wins, she demolishes him as she should, and she joins the rebellion, and then we lead into Star Wars Rebels. Oh boy. But yeah, that was a great show. 5 out of 5. Then I guess I started this game called Stray, which is about a cat you play as, and I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's very short, 5 hours long, and I started it, I think on the same day that I started the My Hero movie, and Tales of the Jedi, so it's a busy day that day, the 5th of January, and it took me a few days, but I finished it. Now, this actually took me 1 session to get into it, so I played it for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes or so, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, oh, this is like a puzzle game, it's too complicated, I can't figure this out. But eventually, I gave it a 5 out of 5 because it's amazing. When you really get into it, like in say after an hour of playing it, you really get immersed in the world. You're playing as this cute little cat. I just thought it was so immersive and just a really cool, like cute little world, I guess is what I would say. And it was really fun going around and seeing all these like little robots that are living their little lives there and seeing what they're about. I thought that was fun. I thought the puzzles were kind of fun, like when they give hints of like where to go and stuff. I thought that was really cool. I really liked how it was very low fail, like it was impossible to fail basically when you're when you're moving around. So like you don't need to like aim before you're jumping. If you just like spam the jump button, you'll jump to like the platform in front of you. You can't fall off and take fall damage or anything. Like it's so like idiot proof, and I really like that. That was fun. What else is there? So yeah, cute world, cute mannerisms of the cat. Like you can meow and you can like lick your paw and stuff. And when you run like a cat would run. It's really well done. So also the characters, let me look this up. Yeah, so there were 2 characters in particular I really liked. So B12, which is the like little droid helper that you get, who eventually, I should mention this is all going to be spoilers. So if you're listening to all of these sections, then be ready to be spoiled. But so this droid at the end sacrifices itself, and it's so sad, and I thought it was great. But there's also Clem, who's this like character we follow around in this like busy nightlife area, and that was really good. And it's so sad when they like leave, and oh my god, you know. But yeah, so I got attached to the characters, even though they're just robots. So at the end of the game, you actually, so after spending, let's say, like 4 hours just roaming around the city and being in the like just in the midst of everything going on in this like dense urban area with all these gross like set design and like all these monsters and stuff, finally what you do is you get to this nice, really clean, pristine area which used to be like for the higher ups and all that, and you're looking over, like you're high up and you're looking over all of the place where you've traveled so far in this game, and it's just like it's this massive window, and I just stood there for so long and I was like, man, like from up here everything looks so like insignificant and small, but when I was there, like it was a sprawling like nightlife city full of people, and they're all their lives are down there, and here I am just watching them as a cat like up here. And it's like you take a moment to, well, I took a moment of just like pause, where I'm just looking out and like, man, like there's so many people down there and they all have their own lives, and it was really it was a moment. So I like that a lot. I've never had that in a game before. That was really cool. What else is there? I said, I guess it is, yeah, this is another thing where you start off the game, like you can see in this screenshot here, where you're with like a little family of cats, and you only spend maybe 5 minutes with them before you get separated from them, and you never see them again throughout the game. So it's a really cool, like, little bit of world building where you're like, oh, on the outside there are these cats, and there is an outside world. Like, this whole time you fall into this city, and people talk about, oh, the outside. We'll never get to the outside. People haven't seen it in so long, and it doesn't exist, and blah blah blah. But you started on the outside, and it's just so interesting to know that there is an outside world, and how you don't question that the outside is something special until you meet the people who haven't seen it, and it's just really cool. And yeah, like, you've got all these people dreaming about the outside, but you were there. It's just so cool. What else have I got? It also, yeah, it makes me interested in, like, a prequel where I could explore my life as a cat before this game. Like, what was I doing? Like, what was my daily life like? Like, who are these family members of cats? Um, and I guess I was also interested, like, by, if we don't see these cats at the end, but it would be interesting to see what they did after I fell off. Like, did they care about me as a cat? Like, were they my family? Were they just cats who I lived with to stay alive or something? They don't actually care about me. Um, yeah, really interesting, and I'd be interested to see more of this world. The music was also great. I wrote that down, and I agree with that still. That was a fantastic music, and the visuals, of course. Like, even in this screenshot, you can see it's just beautiful. Like, the HDR, the quality, it just looks amazing. Yeah, and also, I guess it has a, like, kind of it's not a sad ending, but it's like you spend all of this time with this droid, you spend all of this time with these people in the city, and at the end you leave the city and you're all alone, and it's like, man, I kind of, even though I'm living in a better world now, I kind of miss the people down there in the subjugated city. But yes, this is fantastic for 5 hours of gameplay. I thought this was amazing. This is easily a 5 out of 5. Like, one of my favorite. I don't play many story games, so this is probably my favorite story game. But I love it. 5 out of 5. Next up, I spent pretty much a month, so I actually started a few days before the end of this year, but I finished in the 17th of January, and I watched Spy Family. And this was an anime. I'm sure you've heard of it if you know anything about anime. 25 episodes. I'd heard nothing but good things about this. It was made by Wit Studio. Let me have a drink. Oh. Yeah, made by the famous Wit Studio, who did Attack on Titan and all that. And I thought this was a 3 out of 5, so it was fine. It's probably like Demon Slayer quality, maybe a little bit higher, but it was completely, I'd say, it was just good. It was fine. So I would say, let me look at my notes. I got a lot of notes for Spy Family. So it started off with a strong first episode or two, and yeah, actually, what happened was, yeah, I watched those first 2 episodes, and I was like, man, this is, like, it's pretty strong, but it was nothing like what I was expecting. I guess not in terms of content. It kind of was what I was expecting in terms of content, but it just didn't seem like anything special at all. Like, I know that people love this, and it was like the highest, like, it like gets up there really high on, like, Mal and everything, but I didn't understand why it was rated so highly, and it just didn't seem very interesting. Like, I understand Anya, she was very cute, and I liked watching her scenes and her internal monologue and all that, but I just didn't understand what was so special about it. Like, even in terms of production, it didn't seem particularly interesting. Like, there were maybe a few moments where I'm like, okay, that was some neat animation, but other than that, it seemed pretty average in terms of what I was seeing. But I did just mention how I like Anya's monologue, but I actually, for most of the time, I think overall, like, in the small scenes we see of her, I like it, but overall it feels weird, because when we, like, the intention of her character is to be cute, right? Like, we like seeing her scenes because she's cute and she does cute things and all that. But when we get her internal monologue, it doesn't seem like she's this cute child. It seems like she's like it's like an adult in a child's body or something. It's like a weird, like, she's too intelligent to be a child. It's like a weird disconnect where, I don't know, it's just weird getting her internal monologue. Like, it works in something like Mushoku Tensei, where you actually are an adult in a child's body and you're getting all these complex thoughts, and it's like, okay, it makes sense for Rudius, but in this case, it seems weird. But eventually, I guess it does go away. Like, you kind of get used to it as you're watching the show, but it was something that stood out to me immediately at the beginning. What else have I got? So Lloyd is great. He's basically the main character if you discount Anya. He's good. Yor is fine. She's not too interesting. This is Yor right here if you haven't seen the show. I liked her, like, oh, gomenasai, Borusan, or whatever, where she, like, destroys the ball, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's funny. But she didn't do too much. But then, I guess the takeaway here is that the first half of the show I thought was like a, I don't know, like a 1 or 2 out of 5. I just really didn't like it. The rest of the show honestly would probably be like a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed the everything past like the second half, like when the second opening kicked in onwards. I thought this show was really great. Like you open up with the oh, I don't remember what the dog's name was. You got this big dog like Borf or something. I don't remember his name. Oh no, it was the spy guy. What was it? Bond. That's it. Yeah, you get these episodes where they're finding Bond and stuff, and it's just so cool. I really like the final 12 episodes here. There was, in those first 12 episodes, there was a dodgeball episode. I thought that was really funny, with a giant like 6-year-old or whatever on the enemy team. That was great. And Anya like getting serious, and like there are some really cute like Anya faces and stuff which became memes and all that. I enjoyed that in the first 12 episodes, but I enjoyed the story and watching the show a lot more in those second 12 episodes. What else was there? There was also the tennis episodes in the second part. They were amazing. There's this one scene where Lloyd is trying to dodge, like he's trying to like be so erratic so that it's unpredictable where he's going to land so no one can shoot him. And it's just like, he's so serious and he's like about to do a serve, and he like does all these spasms everywhere, and it's like the most JoJo's Bizarre Adventure thing I've ever seen. It was just so funny. I loved it. Like that's a great GIF, which I would have. I wish I could put it here or something, but it is what it is. Yeah, I guess I also wrote that that's a scene I'll go and revisit. I definitely will. I love that scene. But the best thing in this show was one tiny mini story that came at the end of just one random episode. I think it was even after the post-credit, like after the credits or something. But it's this one episode where Bond, the dog, breaks Anya's stuffed penguin, and she just gets so sad, and she like hates the dog. And then her parents, like oh man, I'm thinking of a Yoru from Chainsaw Man. Tries to fix it but makes it worse, and then Lloyd comes in and actually fixes it. And Anya's like crying. Like this is where she feels the most childlike and like kind of relatable, where you can think back to when stuff like that happened to you as a kid, and you're like, oh man, I hate. And then but also at the same time, you see it from the parents' perspective now, being older, where you're like, oh, the parents are just trying to fix the thing, and it's like, oh, this is so cute. And then Bond comes in and apologizes and gives her peanuts, and Anya's like, oh, I'm sorry, Bond. And it's just the cutest thing ever. That's a 10 out of 10 episode. Like, well, not the episode, just that one scene. But it's so good. Like that scene alone makes Spy Family worth watching. Love it. In terms of production now, there's 2 openings and 2 endings. Now, the first opening is absolutely terrible. I watched it twice and I would never watch it again. Now, apparently, people love it. And I think they're all really dumb. So if you're listening and you like it, you're dumb, all right? I hate it a lot. Nothing special, pretty bad, actually. Now, the second opening is one... it's probably my top 10 openings of all time. I love it so much. I actually did this like list the other day where I was trying to figure out like my top 10, and it either made it or it was like number 11 or something. So I love the second Spy Family opening. It's like, whoa, whoa. It's like so great. Love it. Now, in terms of the endings, the first ending is amazing, and the second one is fine, but the first one is like this lo-fi beat. It's like dun 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 dun. It's so great. Second one is kind of lame, but it's fine. Not as bad as the first opening. Now that was terrible. 3 more notes. So overall, the earlier part of the season didn't feel particularly special, but it stepped up. Yes, that's what I was talking about. Both in terms of story and production, the second half just blew the first half out of the water. Like I do wonder if something happened, like if they. Because I think there was a break in the halves in airing, so maybe they had more time to prepare, or maybe they already had assets prepared from the first part that they could reuse, so that it gave them more breadth in their timeline for the second part. I don't know, but it worked out really well, so well done, Wit Studio. So I got 2 more notes, which is one that Anya's faces, like she had some really cute faces I was talking about, like especially the putting on a fake smile to get people to like you, like with the eyes and everything. That was funny the first time, and every time it happened. And my final note is that I don't think I would recommend this to anyone, except if you are like a mega fan of the slice of life genre. Because well, I guess what I would recommend is maybe watch the first episode and then skip straight to episode 12 and start from there. Like I would recommend that, but boy, was this the first half boring. Because I even got to one point, it was like episode 6 or 7 or something, and I was like, why am I watching this? Like, if it wasn't going to go on my media consumption list, I would just like stop right here. But here we are. It paid off. The final 12 were great. That Bond thing is 10 out of 10. Made the show worth it. But overall, 3 out of 5. Next up, on the 23rd of January, I watched a 2-hour and 19-minute movie, which is Glass Onion. And this is a 4 out of 5 movie. So I love the first Knives Out movie, and this was the second one. I think I'd give them both 4 out of 5. They were both great. I would say, let me look at my notes. So overall, very fun movie. I like the characters. I guess in these Knives Out movies, the characters are always shine. Like the point of watching this, where you have a bunch of different people and they're all interacting in this fun way. They're all very distinct, like personalities and all that. It had a very different vibe to Knives Out, which I appreciate. Like, it's not just the same mystery, like another mystery with the similar types of characters or anything. It was very different. Excuse me, in terms of like setting and stuff and characters and motivations and everything. It was neat. I said that initially I felt like the comedy was a bit cringe, but it got better, and I think it's just because I wasn't familiar with the characters yet. Like in the beginning, it starts with this like Zoom call between all these people at different locations, and I was like, oh, they were making these like weird jokes and stuff, but it was fine. I think watching it now, I'd probably enjoy it more now that I know all those people involved, but yeah. Also, this was the first piece of media I've seen that takes place during COVID, because like all the characters were wearing masks and they were talking about the pandemic and all that. And that was it was just an interesting thing. I'm sure many other things will come out like this in the future, but this was the first one I've ever seen. And I said that in my next note, overall, it was just very engaging. Like I started watching it, at night. So I actually started like 4 a.m. on the 23rd in the morning. And then I had to sleep. So I only got to watch, say, an hour of it, but I didn't want to sleep because I was like, man, I'm really engaged in this. But I had to. So I kind of, because the way it works is sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'm not too interested in watching a movie. In this case, I wasn't that interested in like watching this Glass Onion movie. So I was like, okay, I'll watch it at night and then I can just sleep. And then later on I can watch the second part or the third part or whatever. But, yeah, I wanted to binge through it, so it ended up being very engaging. Now there's 2 cool lines that I've written here. The first one is that you'll lie for a lie, but you won't lie for the truth. That was kind of novel. And then the second one was forever be remembered in the same breath as the Mona Lisa. I was like, wow, it's a good point. You will be, because that painting doesn't exist anymore. My God. Okay, next up was The Shining. So this is a movie I'd heard about for a very long time. Whenever you look up like mindfuck movies, this is one of the ones that definitely shows up. And I love those types of movies. This is a 2-hour and 26-minute movie, and you can probably see I watched it over many sessions because I was very busy. So I started it, and this isn't like Glass Onion where I was engaged immediately, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was a 3 out of 5. Like it was, I guess if I want to describe the enjoyment, I would say I started off a bit like unsure of what's happening, but by the end of it, I really liked the final kind of stuff, like that chase and the stuff in the maze and all that. That was really good. But let's look at these notes here. So, yep, a cool isolation movie. So, yeah, the premise here is that you've got this caretaker of a facility, and you've got his 2 family members, so his wife and his son. And they're at this strange like hotel in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by snow, and it's kind of terrifying because it's like you've got this massive hotel and you're the only 3 people living here, and it's just isolation and no contact with the outside world, and it is just like a terrifying thought kind of. But yeah, cool isolation movie. It has an awesome, like I think this movie is sold on its sound. Like without the scary sounds and the intense like sound effects that happen frequently, this would not be the same movie. This is a great example of something that I always like to see, which is using like overbearing, really loud sound effects to kind of accentuate a particular mood. And I wish more things would do that. And this did that really well. And probably this will be the example I go to going forward when I try and explain like when that works well. There was also a really cool directing. I mean, there was a bunch of cool directing shots here, but one I really liked was when the guy, Johnny, for instance, Jack, he's swinging the axe on the door in the scene that we're showing here. You get this really cool like methodical following of him where he like swings it, and as he goes back, it's not like the camera's stationary. The camera like tracks him and goes back with him and goes forward and hits it again. It's such a cool shot. Um, what else is there? The kid has this actually, before I talk about that, it's interesting that the movie is called The Shining, and that's because it's actually a power, like a psychic power. And I just never considered it. Like, whenever I'd always heard of the movie called The Shining, and I never once considered, oh, what is The Shining? Like, what does it mean? Is it a place? Is it a character? Like, is it an ability? And it turns out it is an ability. Really cool. But reason I bring that up is the fact that the kid in this movie is like possessed, has the shining power, and is possessed by this like other entity. And the voice he uses when he's like, when the other entity is talking through him is just, it's like scary. Really well done. The other thing is that this actress is incredibly attractive in a weird kind of way, because she's obviously not very conventionally attractive, but man, is she hot. I just thought I'd point that out. This movie is famous for the "Here's Johnny," that line, which is pretty much the only thing I knew about this movie. And I also knew, I saw Ready Player One, and apparently there was a Shining reference in that. And the only thing I remember was that there was the blood shown in that, which is also shown here. But I'd be interested to go back and see what that actual reference was. But yeah, I didn't know very much about this going in. Now, there's a lot of questions. This was a very open-ended movie, which sometimes I like open-ended movies if I like open-ended movies if I have like a big kind of theory about them. But in this one, I felt like it was a bit too disconnected in all of its like mysteries, where I couldn't come up with anything cohesive. So it feels like a bit of a mess to me. Like, for instance, you meet this witch in the particular hotel room where she comes off looking beautiful, but then it's revealed that she's actually like really ugly and diseased and all that. I have no idea what's going on there. I have no idea what I wrote. Bear man gay. I have no idea what bear man is, and I have no idea. I don't remember anything about gay in this movie. I have absolutely no idea what that note means. Bear man? What is bear man? I don't know. Maybe I put it in the wrong section or something. I don't know. So this movie ends with a big snow chase, like in a you've got like one of those hedge mazes where you've got the kid running through, and then you've got the dad, crazy dad, chasing him, and it's really snowy and stuff, and it's just so well directed and looks so cool and atmospheric, and one of the coolest chase scenes I've ever seen. Um, it's also I'm sure this is a trope I've seen before, but maybe this was the first like time in not history, but like in film, where this was like a big thing that happened. But throughout the movie, you get this other guy with the shining, like with an ability, and he notices that something is probably wrong with the people at the hotel, but he isn't at the hotel, so he tries to make his way there, and eventually at the climax of the movie, he shows up, and you think he's there to save the day, and finally the savior's here, and he's going to stop our crazy people, our crazy dad. But he doesn't. He just dies immediately on showing up, and it's like a subversion of like, you think he's going to be there to save the day, but he isn't. And I've seen that done before, but this was probably like chronologically the first time it's happened in anything I've seen. Yeah, the sound effects I talked about were great, but also the music is really great, especially the scary music. There's a bunch of it throughout this. It's very atmospheric and sets a very like creepy tone. Yeah, we also briefly mentioned this. We get the blood elevator. No idea what it is. Probably some symbolism about that dad who killed his two daughters and wife. But no idea. It was a cool visual nonetheless, and something I do remember from Ready Player One. Then the movie ends with like, you zoom in on a photo and you see Jack in 1921. No idea what that means either, but it was a somewhat interesting mystery. Like, is there a time loop? Like, is he a descendant of this guy? Like, what's going on? No idea. And finally, in January, I finished Chainsaw Man. All of it, part 1 and part 2. And no question, 5 out of 5. I love it. It's fantastic. It's Chainsaw Man. I'm not going to say too much here, because if you really want to know my thoughts, I've got go to Ordinary, I guess go on this channel here, and go through my Chainsaw Man read through with Kyle Entertainment, where I read through a bunch of arcs at a time. So I've got 3 videos, a 4th one coming out, and I love it. great thing. One of the like, there's one arc in there's one part of this story which is like my favorite like arc in anything I've ever seen. So I highly recommend it. And part two is shaping up to be interesting as well. So we'll see. So now I'm thinking, like, as I go on, like in the different months, I'll create like a running tally of what's going on. So I've got these three. I've also tried to rank these approximately, but like, so I think Chainsaw Man was my favorite thing, then Tales of the Jedi, then Stray, then My Hero Academia, Glass Onion, The Shining, and then the worst thing, which was Spy Family. Now, let me take a drink before. I'm meant to be, like, the whole point of this, like, monthly recap digest thing was to go over, like, all the YouTube videos I was watching so that I could motivate myself to watch more analysis videos so that I could make better ones, but, I didn't end up watching any. But I did watch one. Like, I guess I watched a few videos, but none of them were worth talking about here. But the one I did watch was in preparation for the, my first Chainsaw Man video where I was not debating, but like I disagreed a lot with Kyle Entertainment's take on the Chainsaw Man anime, and one of his arguments he would go to is about how Chainsaw Man its humor is operating on like a very high level of irony, and I understand what irony is, but I never really understood like the way he was talking about it with all these levels and stuff. So I did some research into it. And the first video is the most popular video. I'm pretty sure this is where everyone gets their definitions of irony from, even if it's not based in, I don't know, any literature or anything besides this one website he references. But he talks about, yeah, post-irony, meta-irony, and post-truth satire. So I thought this was really interesting. He talks about how you've got like layer 1, which is like sincerity, layer 2, which is like irony, and then you got meta-irony. And I just thought this was really interesting. And I don't have too much to say. I would recommend people go watch this. And irony is a very interesting thing, and it dominates our discourse these days. And that's it. So that's the monthly digest here. So I am open to suggestions. So I will watch a lot of things. I actually haven't watched anything in these past. I'm currently recording this on the 8th of February because I had my yearly review, which is like my one period in the year where I'm actually busy, so the rest of the year should be fine. But I actually haven't watched anything in the last 8 days because I wanted to record this before I consumed any new media. But if you have anything you want to suggest, so movies, anime, TV shows, games, books, YouTube videos, let me know and I will watch them. So in terms of these, like, if you recommend something that fits in here, then I will almost certainly watch it. So if it's an anime and it has 12 episodes or less, let me know and I will watch it. All right. And it'll probably be included in the next month's digest. So please let me know. Movies, I will pretty much, because most movies, as long as it's not like 3 hours or something, like if it's a decently short movie, and as long as it isn't a comedy, then I will watch it because I hate comedies. And I hate long movies as well, unless they're like really good. So recommend a movie and I will almost certainly watch it. TV shows, if it's like a live action TV show, 40 minutes per episode, if it's got 6 episodes or less, like something like Chernobyl or something, tell me, I will watch it. If it's a game, like Stray, for instance, it was 5 hours. So if it's around 6 hours to finish, I will also play it. So let me know and I will play these. So let me know what you think. And that's everything. So see you next month, I guess.